Hi everyone, welcome to episode 64 of Global Freakin Pandemic Yoga, episode 64. It hurts my heart to even say that because I know I say this every single week, but I thought we would be doing this for like 10 weeks, no, 10 weeks maybe, 2.5 months. And here we are, almost a year into it. I miss live classes, I miss you guys, I miss being with you, but this is better than nothing. And today we have a good plan. I'm excited. So let me explain what we're going to do, and then we'll get right into it, okay? It's so awkward to sit here and watch yourself on your phone. It's never going to be okay. I need more under eye cream. I should probably start wearing makeup again one day soon. It has been nothing but lip balm and moisturizer and I curl my eyelashes occasionally since last March. It's been great. A friend of mine posted a video of her little girl the other day who's like 3 putting on makeup, and it was just all over her face. It was a mess. And I honestly had the thought that's going to be me when I have to wear makeup again because I'm not going to know what to do. So welcome. I hope everyone's feeling good. I hope you've had a good week since we were together last. Kind of gray and gross out and cold out today. I think maybe tomorrow's supposed to be a rainy day too, right? Saturday, but I feel like we haven't had rain in a really long time. So as long as the rain doesn't translate into snow, I don't care. It can rain. I have closets to clean out still. Closets that I cleaned last March when there was nothing else to do, once again need to be cleaned, so it's come full circle. So here's our plan for today. Hopefully it will meet everyone's needs, but I know that some of you who normally practice with me and watch this class and practice live with me when we have the opportunity are healing from COVID or the flu or colds or sports injuries or other things like that. And my best friend is one of those people. She is recovering from COVID. And she is a typically, and I think this is probably the case with a lot of people, she is typically healthy, active, vibrant, on the go, mom of 3, has a regular workout regimen, and she's used to just being in motion and feeling good about being in motion. And right now, her energy level is, it was here, and it's literally down here right now. And if she does too much, she really feels it the next day and has a harder time bouncing back. But we were talking earlier today, and just for, stress and mental health and just for the sake of moving, you need to figure out what you can do that's not going to be too much, but will still make you feel good. So this class is for all of you people who need to take it easy but still want to move. And then this class is also, and this is exciting for me because it's been 10 months since I've had live students and people in front of me, so I haven't had a new yogi in at least 10 months, right? So this is also a class for anyone who is brand new to yoga, or if you know anyone who's kind of been on the fence and wants to try practicing yoga but doesn't really know where to start. This is going to be the class. This is going to be a very bare bones basic class. This is also for my virtual workout friend, Linda, who I have never met, but she is part of this fantastic workout group that I am part of online, where we just report what we do, and we're doing some challenges together and mostly just encourage each other, which is really nice. And Linda is, she looks like she's in really good shape, and I know she works out every day, and she's interested in trying yoga and doesn't know where to start, and I didn't know how to direct her because I don't know what studios are open, I don't know where she lives or what I could recommend in her area. I'm not super fluent with, I know a couple of people online that are well known that teach yoga classes, but I kind of thought, well, maybe the best way to do this is to pretend that Linda's right in front of me and she's a brand new student, and how would I teach her, and then she can go from there. So welcome, Linda. Let's get started. You need your mat, you need a blanket or a towel or something to sit up on. I've got mine back there. And that's it. Lie on your back, arms at your side, palms up. And I'm probably going to give, I know this is going to sound crazy since I talk so much during my classes anyway, but I'm probably going to give even more instruction today, and maybe things that you've heard me say a million times, but I want to make sure that that I'm preaching to all the new yogis, Linda, and just anyone who's kind of starting from the beginning and needing to take it a little bit easier today. Okay? So lie on your back, arms at your side, palms up, close your eyes. So sometimes when you're practicing something like yoga or anything, any hobby, any passion, anything that you love, sometimes it's really good to go back to the beginning and start over. Because I know that for me, when I think I'm pretty good at something, sometimes I get a little bit cocky with it, or I forget the little tiny instructions that just make it better, and I start to move a little bit more robotically through things. And I think with yoga that can happen very easily. And so this is going to be a good class for everybody. I'm confident in that. It's just going to get you moving gently with a lot of instruction. And if you are a more advanced practitioner, which I know that some of you are, then move ahead and do whatever feels best for you. And if you're a little bit wary, then just stick with me, okay? So arms are at your side, palms are up. You're lying on your back with your legs out flat in front of you, and your eyes are closed. So a couple options here. We're going to start with the breath, right? When you're lying in this position at the beginning or end of class, your breath is super important. You want to inhale through your nose, unless you're really stuffy and congested, in which case use your mouth. But if you can, inhale through your nose. And then, I've just started recently teaching this way. I always taught exhale through your nose, but two options for the exhale, either out through your nose or out through your mouth. Either one is fine. So you inhale. When you inhale, your belly is going to fill up like a balloon. When you exhale, the balloon deflates, right? So find a little rhythm here. I'm going to talk to you as you breathe, but I want you to find a little bit of a rhythm with your breath that feels calming to you and soothing to you, and at the same time doesn't feel forced. You know, we don't typically pay a lot of attention to how we breathe throughout the day unless maybe we're struggling to breathe, or if you're someone who is recovering from COVID, you might have a heavy chest feeling, you might be a little extra phlegmy, I don't know. But we don't typically pay attention to our breath. So when you're in yoga, you want to pay attention to your breath. You want to use it as a type of meditation that that's calming on your central nervous system, just calming on your whole body in general. But if anything that you're doing doesn't feel comfortable at any point during a yoga class, my class, anyone else's class, including the breath work, then change it and do it however you need to feel good about it, okay? Any teacher that you have ever in a yoga class or in any situation where you're practicing yoga, Pilates, anything like that, strictly here to guide you, not to force you into doing it a certain way. So you're breathing, you're inhaling in through the nose, you're exhaling either through your nose or your mouth. Your palms are up, they're not facing down, because when they're facing up, your shoulders have the chance to begin to soften. Do me a favor and flip your hands over, palms down. It changes the way your shoulders feel. It changes the sensation in your shoulder joints. And it's because you've lost a little bit of range of motion by flipping the palm down and kind of locking the shoulders in that position. When you flip them up, all of a sudden you have that openness again, right? And the openness is what we're always trying to find in yoga. Every pose, every breath, every posture, asana that we do is with the intention of creating space where there wasn't space before, and opening your body, opening your mind, opening your heart to new things, to whatever your practice has for you that day. Let your feet flop open towards the sides of the room. Don't hold anything rigid when you're lying here in this position. You don't want to be using any muscular energy. The only muscular energy you're using at all is to move your breath in and out through your body. Start at the top of your head. Work your way all the way down to your feet. Take note of anything that may feel a little tight, a little crackly, a little crunchy, a little stretched or pulled or not stretched maybe. I know for me today I'm a little bit congested and my left hip groin area kind of feels super tight. I did like this jerky motion before when I was separating laundry, and all of a sudden I just felt like I pulled something really quick and sharp. So that may be the case, but I'm hoping that I can work it out with you. Right? Use my yoga magic to make it feel a little bit better. But if you've been out running, if you've been doing push-ups, if you've been doing squats or Tabata or HIIT classes or anything like that, you may be feeling something somewhere. There's rarely a day when I wake up and something's not a little sore. You know, it might be a calf, it might be an arch in one of my feet, it might be the back of one of my knees. It's an odd thing that I love teaching yoga, I love practicing yoga, but I'm not a good stretcher. So when I go out in the morning, it's usually 7, maybe 7:15 at the latest, and I just have to get going and get moving and get back because I have to be back for Kian at school at 8:30. So I don't take the time to stretch in the morning. I know what to do, I just don't take the time to do it. And it definitely affects me adversely because when I do take even just 5 minutes, it makes a huge difference. So feet are flopping open. You're doing a quick mental scan starting at the head, working your way all the way down, noticing how you're feeling. And the reason you want to take note of how you're feeling is because at the end, you're going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to see how you feel. Hopefully, and I haven't said this yet today, I typically say this in all of my yoga classes, but my goal always for my students in my classes is to leave feeling better than when you got there. So that can mean anything. That can just mean that you needed a mental break and you found it in this time. It can mean that you opened up a tight hip or a tight shoulder, or you lengthened a side body, or maybe you brought some new space to your spine. But whatever it means for you, I always want you to leave feeling better than when you arrive. So you take note in the beginning of class of anything that's a little bit off, and then you'll do the same thing at the end, and hopefully whatever you noted in the beginning is feeling a little bit better, or a little bit more spacious, or a little bit less constricted. Take a couple more deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling, and I'm going to do all of this class with you so that, sorry, I'm also going to be blowing my nose a lot too, but I'm going to be doing most of this class with you so that anybody who's brand new can take a second and look up at the screen in case they're not sure what I'm asking you to do. Sometimes I don't think I verbalize the way I feel like I do in my head, and you know I screw up my left and right, so I want to be real clear on what you should and shouldn't be doing. So stay where you are. I'm going to flip around so that my head is facing you, and I'm going to lie on my back in the same position that you're in. Okay, so we're all lying on our backs. Now we're going to move our arms away from our body. Palms are going to stay up. We're coming into what we call the big T position. So if somebody were to stand up above you and look down, you would look like the letter T. Palms are up, facing the ceiling. Arms are going straight out from the shoulder sockets. Bend your knees. Plant your feet on the ground. See, this is where I can feel that hip pull. It's the weirdest thing. Okay. Now, the knees are going to come in, but you're not going to use your arms to pull them in. You're just going to use your core muscles. So arms stay out, knees come in. Now we're going to take a twist over to the right, and let our legs go all the way down and settle. So your legs are going to the right, and you want to pay attention to the back of the left shoulder. You want to make sure the back of the shoulder is down on the ground. You want to make sure the length of the arm is out flat. You don't want to have any air pockets or mouth houses, whatever you want to call it. You want that whole left arm to be out flat on the ground. Let your legs settle. Try not to muscularly hold anything. So I think the best way to approach yoga when you're new is to remember that while it's a form of working out, it's more of a softening than anything else. So there are times to muscularly engage in your practice, and there are times to just soften and be in that pose and be in that moment. And this is one of those poses where you just want to let your body flop and you want to let gravity work for you. Nice deep breathing here in through the nose, and then again you choose either out through the mouth or out through the nose. We're doing this twist with the intention of creating space in our spine and also our side body, which is the area from the underarm down through the hip. We tend to get really tight and cramped in there. I know I do. I sleep on my side, and so and I switch like sides. I flip back and forth all night. So my side bodies are always tight in the morning. I always have to stand up and just do like a real quick stretch just to kind of lengthen. It's like pulling out a length of tubing or something that compacts itself as the night goes on, and then in the morning I have to pull it out and stretch it again. Okay, now we're going to come up to center. Knees come in, and you have two options here. You can come into happy baby, which is reaching for your big toes or the outside edges of your feet, whichever one you want. Whichever you decide to grab, you're going to bring your knees wide, bottoms of the feet face the ceiling, and you start to find a little bit of a movement, a rocking movement here. Now, if this is too big for you, if your hamstrings won't allow this yet or your hips just won't go this way, you can also just put one hand on each kneecap and let the weight of your arms pull your knees wide. So regardless of which way you approach this position, you're still going to get a hip opener, you're still going to get a hamstring opener, you're still going to get a groin opener, and if you have any kind of sciatic issue, this is really super good for that because the whole back of your hip is getting a big lengthening and a big stretch right now. So find a little bit of movement. Remember to breathe. Don't hold your breath, even if we're doing something that feels a little uncomfortable for you. Don't hold your breath. And then come to a standstill. And we're going to do the same twist in the other direction. So arms come out in the big T with the palms up. Legs are going to drop to the left. Let the legs settle, right? Let them stack and settle. And then focus on the back of the right arm. You want the palm up, but most importantly, you want the whole length of the arm to be out flat on the ground from the shoulder out through the fingertips. And again, find your breath. You can close your eyes here for a minute if that might feel good for you. I'm so glad you guys aren't here in the room. I mean, I wouldn't normally say that because, like I said 10 minutes ago, I miss teaching live classes so badly, but my stomach just growled, and I'm going to have to blow my nose 10 times, so I'm going to be a little bit gross today in person. Nice deep breath, and notice if twisting on this side feels different than it did on the other side. You know, maybe your pec is tighter on this side. Maybe your side body's tighter. Maybe your hip is tighter on one side than the other. We look very mirror imagey of ourselves, but we're not. We're not internally, and muscularly we certainly aren't. So when we do yoga, we practice yoga, and we're doing things from left side to right side, you start to pick up on where you're tighter and where you're a little bit more closed and locked and where you have more space, and you get to know yourself a little bit better, which is really nice. Always nice, always handy. All right, knees up to center. And again, happy baby, or one hand on each kneecap. So big toes or outer edges of your feet. If you're holding your big toes, you're using your pointer finger and your middle finger, and you're coming into a yogi toe lock. So you're reaching for your big toes, bending the knees. The knees almost want to pull down into your armpit. I mean, they're not going to, but that's kind of the way that you're approaching this and acting as if. And the bottoms of your feet are facing the ceiling, and you're finding your movement. Perfect. Come on back to center. Let's bring our legs straight up in the air and flex our feet. So we've got two options here. We can point our feet or we can flex our feet. For most yoga purposes, you want to flex because you want to lengthen the back of your calf, you want to lengthen the back of your Achilles, and you want to put some space in your arch. And I know for me, with walking, with jogging, with just the shoes I wear, everything, anytime I can lengthen and stretch my arch, it's a good thing. Bring your arms back out, palms up, big T. Pull the toes down, lift the heels high, press out through the backs of your knees, and then bend the knees, bring the feet down to the ground. So what we're going to do here with our knees bent is bring the soles of our feet together and let our knees drop out to the sides. I heard someone one time refer to this as your feet kissing each other, and I thought that was super gross. So this is one of those moments where you want to soften. You don't want to muscularly engage. You don't want to pull. You know, I know that you're probably feeling a tightness. I can feel, gosh, like I can feel how tight these muscles are right here on my hip flexors just by putting my fingers there. Take your hand and kind of feel around your hip flexors a little bit and feel how tight everything is. So if we muscularly engage and we lift our knees and come out of the stretch, we're not getting that lengthening. We're not giving ourselves the benefit of the pose. So even if it's uncomfortable and you feel it pulling, lock your heels in a little closer, bring the feet together, roll onto the outer edges of the feet, let the knees drop, and then rather than lift them to come out of it a little bit, take a big breath in, and as you exhale, soften. Soften through those tight flexors, soften through the tight inner thigh, the groin muscles, bring the arms into the big T, and just nice deep breathing in through the nose, holding the breath for a comfortable couple of seconds, whatever feels good for you, and then slowly exhaling. Sometimes when a pose is a little bit uncomfortable, I like to inhale, and then as I exhale, really focus on letting myself soften into it. So with this, I would take a big breath in, and then on the exhale, try to release a little bit of that tightness that I'm holding right in my hip flexors. Okay, so let's make our way over onto hands and knees facing me. Adjust your pants if you need to. You know I always need to adjust my pants. I'm going to end up with some bad hair by the time this class is over. So, cat and cow. So your hands are in the front corners of your mat. Your fingers are spread nice and wide. So roll your palms up. Can you see my hands? My palms aren't on the mat, but the length of my fingers are. And the reason I want to do this is so that I can squeeze out any air pockets that might be underneath my palms when they're flat on the mat. So I want to roll down and really grip the mat. You want to feel like you're using the muscles in your hands and your fingers to really hold on to that mat. And the reason you want to do that is because that will engage the muscles straight up your arm, your forearm, into your upper arm, and up into your shoulders. Now, we're just going to focus on the arms for a second. We're not going to pay a whole lot of attention to our legs for just a minute. But with the fingers spread nice and wide, you've got your pointer fingers pointing straight ahead at me, and your thumbs are pointing in towards one another. If you're newer to yoga, sometimes being in this position when we come up into downward facing dog or we do cat and cow can really bother your wrists, but it's just because you're tight in this area and you need to stretch it out. So anything that you're feeling today, if this is your first yoga class, don't give into it. It will go away after a couple of classes, assuming that you like yoga and you continue to practice, but you may be a little bit uncomfortable with some little things today that surprise you. So now we're at a 90-degree angle. Our knees are under our hips. We're going to curl our toes under. Okay, so this is what my foot looks like. My toes are curled under. We're going to move on our breath here. So on an inhale, when you're breathing in through your nose, you're going to drop your head and press your spine up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, you're going to arch your back, stick your butt out like crazy, and look up. And the reason I want you to really exaggerate that arch is because it's going to feel really good on your low back. So inhale, press down into the mat, press your spine up and drop your head. Exhale, arch your back and look up. So you want to move on your breath, but if this is new to you, that may be a little bit hard to coordinate at first. So just move and breathe. It doesn't matter if they're pretty and harmonious, okay, as long as you're doing both. So we're going to do this for a couple of seconds on our own, moving on our own, inhaling and exhaling, arching and rounding up, but remember to try to exaggerate your movements, okay? Do just one or two more. And like every other pose, notice how this pose makes you feel physically. Do you feel anything going on in your back? Do you feel anything going on in the arches of your feet because your toes are so curled under? Maybe you're feeling this really muscularly in your arms because your arms are so engaged because your hands are just clenching that mat, right? Come to a neutral tabletop position. So that would just be a flat back. Release your feet out behind you. Now we're going to bring our big toes together and our knees way out to the sides. Coming down into child's pose. So in child's pose, you can come down onto your forehead or your chin. You just want to melt and soften your chest and your facial area down onto the mat, okay? Hips are pressing back towards your heels, but they're not necessarily sitting on your heels. Some people, they naturally do. Some people, they don't. But you're doing this with the intention of lengthening the spine. So anything you do is going to lengthen the spine just by the nature of the pose you're in. So don't worry if you've seen someone else do this and they do it differently than you're doing it. Okay, come on up, hands and knees again. This time, we are going to go up into downward facing dog. In my head, I never ever think those words because I have written out classes for so many years, and probably 15 years ago I started to just shorten it to DFD. So in my head, that's what I think, but I stopped myself from saying it. Okay, so same thing with the hands. Spread the fingers. Lift the palms, roll them down so you have no air bubbles, you have no concave areas underneath the palms. Curl the toes under. You're going to lift one hip, follow it with the other hip, drop the heels down towards the ground, but again, they don't have to touch the ground. If you're a runner, your hamstrings are super tight, this may be uncomfortable for you, so keep a little bend in your knee and stay soft. This is a muscularly engaged pose, but you still want to stay soft. So everybody come up high on your toes, bend your knees, press your hips back towards the wall behind you, and then lift the hips by straightening the legs, and then just let the heels drop to wherever they naturally drop to. So the way that we check if our hands and feet are wide enough apart is to inhale our shoulders forward into a plank, and if you don't have to move your hands or feet at all, then you're the perfect distance apart. So press back into your dog, bend the knees, drop the heels, push the mat away from you. That's how muscularly engaged your arms are here. You want to feel like you're trying to push the mat away. Drop your head, release the back of your neck. Nice deep breathing here, in through the nose. Exhale, either through the mouth or the nose, whatever feels best. Again, inhale. Exhale. And this time we're going to inhale forward into a plank. Yoga planks are a little bit different. Your hips are a tiny bit higher than they might be in another plank. We're going to bring our knees down, and we're just going to come down to lie on our stomachs. Now from here, we will windshield wiper our legs. So bend your knees up and just windshield wiper from side to side, bringing a little bit of looseness to your hips and your low back. How you doing, Linda? All right, so bring your legs down. We are going to play with a little tiny back bend here, cobra. I forgot what it's like to teach like a brand new to yoga class. Kind of at a little bit of a loss. So for cobra, I like back bends. So we're going to just throw one in. For cobra, and then we're going to stand up. For cobra, you spread your fingers nice and wide, and you plant your hands under your shoulders. Okay? And then you squeeze your shoulder blades together on your back. Lift your arms, lift the front of your shoulders, the head of your shoulder bone, up away from the mat. But you're not really moving it, you're just moving the shoulder blades together, which muscularly makes it feel like you're moving it. So there's two types of cobra in yoga. There's a baby cobra, which would be right where we are. And then there's a high cobra, which is much more what I prefer. It's a bigger back bend, and you can wiggle into it a little bit, make it feel good. Super important though that when you're doing this, you unclench your butt. Your butt's going to want to clench. I can't explain why, but if you keep it that way, you're going to end up with a really tight ball of muscle in your low back, and you don't want that. So relax your chest through your arms. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Now we're going to curl our toes under and lift our hips, coming into downward facing dog. Check your stance. Everybody inhale forward into a plank. Perfect. Go back. Make any adjustments you need to make. Release the back of your neck. And then from here, we're going to walk our hands back to meet our feet so that I know that we all have room in front of us and that you can still see me on camera. So, hands are going to walk back to meet the feet. You're going to come into a standing forward bend. You can either, you have a couple options here. So look up at me for just a second. If your fingertips don't touch the ground with a straight leg, then don't worry about it, but don't force it by bending the knees a lot just to get the fingertips down. If the fingertips don't touch, I want you to cross at the elbows and hang that way. So two options, fingertips to the floor or crossing at the elbows. Legs are pretty straight without hyperextending. Tiny little bend in the knee, just a micro bend. But you want to lengthen the hamstrings. You want to lengthen everything in the back of the knee. You want to lengthen the back of the calf. So if you've got super bent legs here, you're kind of cheating yourself of that opportunity. Find your breath, even though you're upside down. And then we're going to do 3 flat backs. So for the purpose of all being in the same place in today's class, we're all going to bring our hands to our knees. So hands come to the knees, and you inhale up to a flat back. So maybe if I stand sideways. Hands are on the knees. Arch your back, stick your tush out, and then exhale and fold. Inhale up, flat back. If you've taken real life classes with me, then in your head you're saying the same thing I am, aren't you? Arch your back like a stripper. Exhale and fold. One more time. Inhale up, flat back. When you're doing the flat back, you've got a bigger bend in your knee, and you're really arching your back a lot. You want to do this with the intention of lengthening your back and the side bodies, but you also want to relieve any pressure that you may have built up around your tailbone area. Exhale and fold. From here, roll all the way up nice and slow to a standing position. Adjust your clothing if you need to. And let's see, let's come on down onto, actually, walk up to the front of your mat. I think I'm going to cut off my head, but you can still hear me. So what we're going to do from here, arms at our side, palms forward. So just like we were laying on our mats before, with our palms facing up towards the ceiling, we want that same openness in the shoulders as we stand here in mountain pose. So palms forward, roll the shoulder blades together on your back. Take a nice deep breath, stand up straight and tall. Inhale your arms up. Now I'm going to turn sideways and move back so you can see me, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to stay facing me. Arms are up, and you're going to find a little back bend here by bending the knees, reaching behind you. Inhale up, exhale, fingertips to the floor. Okay, so we're all at the front of our mat, fingertips are on the floor. Bend your knees enough. I know what I said before, but this time I'm changing it a little. Bend your knees enough to get your fingertips to the floor. And then take a step back with your right foot, coming into a yoga lunge. So, if you're new to yoga, a very helpful hint is that when you lunge in yoga, bring your hands, rather than straddle the front leg, bring your hands to the inside the front foot so that you have room for the ladies. Bend the back knee a little. You're high on the ball of the back foot, but you're pressing out through the heel. Now we can take this further and bring our hands up onto our front thigh if you're feeling like you can balance like that. And then from here, we can go even further and bring our arms up. When you bring your arms up, don't crunch up around your ears like this. Give yourself some space, soften, right? So you're still muscularly engaged here holding the pose, but you're also softening at the same time. Big breath in. Exhale the breath, bring your hands down to the floor, and we're going to step forward, coming back into our forward bend. Now either fingertips to the floor or cross at the elbow, depending on how much you have to bend the leg to do that. Drop your head. Make sure the back of your neck is nice and loose. Now we're going to do our 3 flat backs again. So everyone's going to bring their hands to their knees. Inhale up, flat back. Arch your back and look up. Exhale and fold. Again, inhale, flat back. Exhale and fold. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale and fold. So this time we're going to lunge back with the left leg behind us. So again, you have the option of doing it this way, but this way just gives you a little bit more space. Bend both knees. You're high on the ball of the back foot. Stay here, or if you feel like you can hug everything in muscularly and balance, come on up a little higher. Nice big breath. I wish you could hear my knee. It's creaking like crazy. And then bring the arms up. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe stay where you were. And just breathe here. Soften, hug in muscularly to maintain the pose. But also don't forget to breathe. It's the most important part. One more deep breath. Exhale. Hands come down to the floor. Now, instead of stepping forward, we're going to step back into our downward facing dog. We're going to take 5 deep breaths here. 5 inhales, 5 exhales. Okay, after the 5th breath, come on down onto your knees and find your wide knee child's pose. So that's big toes touching, knees going out to the sides, just like we did earlier. Forehead or chin down to the ground with the heart center melting downward. All right, come on up. Grab your blanket or your beach towel or whatever it is that you're sitting up on a little bit. The reason that we have something and sit on it is so that when we sit for a couple minutes to do something, we can sit up really straight and tall and we don't round into ourselves. It helps us to maintain a slightly straighter spine and a little bit better posture. And you don't want to, screw up all the work you did. So sitting up on something helps. Come into a wide-legged seated position. Take a second, get yourself together. And we are just going to mix the bowl going left. So hands on your knees, on your thighs, on your mat, wherever you're comfortable. Just make big circles moving in the pelvic girdle, lengthening out through the crown of your head, opening up the hips and creating some new space in those big, huge, tight joints. And then go the other way. Trying to think if there's anything I didn't explain or say that I really wanted to. I don't know. All right, come on back to center. So remember we talked earlier about flexing and pointing your feet? Flex your feet right now. You want those toes to point back at you. Those self-pedicured, dried out toes. Point them back at you. I miss pedicures and massages. I miss those things. I miss eyebrow waxes. Now, sit up straight and tall. And if you're sitting on a towel or blanket, slide your tush off just so that just the very, back of you is on that. That's all you want. You want enough to get a little bit of a pelvic tilt, but not so much that your whole butt is sitting on it. Now, arms up, leading with your heart. Start to arch your back a tiny bit and just start to fold forward, coming to wherever you're comfortable. This may be as far as you go, and then you drop your hands. Or maybe you're back here. Or maybe you're one of those people that can just flop forward and kiss the mat. That's not me. But you come down to where you're comfortable, but you don't do it rounding, right? This isn't elementary school gym where you're trying to get the presidential fitness award. You're trying to lengthen your spine from the tailbone out through the crown of your head. So you want to keep that straightness and even have a tiny bit of an arch. Once you get as far as you can go and as comfortably far as you can go, then you can settle and soften a little bit, but keep the feet flexed so that the back of the legs are engaged and you're constantly lengthening the hamstrings, the back of the knees, the Achilles, as well as the calves and the arches of your feet. And then find your breath. Come on up, quick shoulder opener, but we're going to keep our legs in this position so that we continue to open our hips. Right hand to the left shoulder, left hand to the back of the right elbow. Press the right arm into you and let that right hand slide down your left shoulder blade a little bit so that you feel this in the back of the right shoulder and into the shoulder blade area. And the whole time you're doing this, sit up as straight and tall as you can without being miserable and uncomfortable. Now we're going to target a slightly different area. We're going to bring the arm up. We're going to bring the hand to the middle of our shoulder blades. Left hand to the right elbow and just pull a little so you feel this more down your side body. So you may be doing this for the first time and saying, holy cow, I didn't even know my shoulders were that tight. And don't be discouraged by things like that. Take that as a little bit of like a, like a help. Like now you know that about yourself and now you can work on fixing it, right? Switch sides, left hand to the right shoulder, right hand to the back of the left elbow, press. You can never know. I used to, before I had kids, I was a clinical dietitian. I worked mostly in long-term care. And I worked a lot with doctors and nurses, and I had a doctor one time tell me that you can never know too much about your own body. And I don't know if I appreciated it at the time because I was 25. But now I'm in my 40s and I have 2 kids, and I definitely appreciate that advice, and I'm always trying to figure things out for myself and about myself as far as my physical body goes so that I know how to fix things sometimes, Switch it up. Nice deep breathing here in through the nose. And then either out through the mouth or the nose, whatever you prefer. And then come on up with your arms interlaced, make prayer hands, flip them over, press them up, go a little bit side to side. This is what I have to do in the morning to loosen up my crunched up side body. Alright, you guys are going to roll down and lie on your back. Move your blanket or your towel to the side and come on down to lie on your back. Hip is still tight. So so weird. You're back in the exact same position you were in when we first started. Arms are at your side, palms are up. Find your breath. So even if you can't pinpoint what feels better right now, in general, I hope you're feeling relaxed. I hope you're feeling peaceful and calm. I hope that you're feeling glad that you took time to do something for yourself and show yourself a little bit of self-care. Just like in the very beginning, start at the top of your head, work your way all the way down to your feet, do a quick mental scan, and note how you're feeling. And then once you've done that, if your eyes aren't closed, close them and let your mind wander. This is thought to be the hardest part of any yoga class. The very end, Shavasana, corpse pose. It's hard for me. I have a hard time just lying still sometimes. And after a yoga class is always when I feel my most energized. I feel calm, but I also feel like I have the most energy. And so lying still and trying to harness that peacefulness and calmness doesn't always come easy for me. But you want to let your mind wander here. You don't want to think about any one thought specifically. You're only going to be in this position for another minute or so. So you want to try to just, as thoughts come in, let them go. Anything you need to think about or focus on or worry about or stress about will be there when we're done, when you roll up your mat. So take this moment to try to let that go. When you are ready, start to wiggle your fingers and your toes a little bit and start to just wake yourself up a tiny bit. You can make your way over to your right hand side and press up to a comfortable seated position, whatever that is for you. Eyes stay closed. Hands come to your heart in prayer. So we end yoga class traditionally with the sound of Om, but we haven't been doing that virtually because I'd be the only one doing it in my living room, and I don't know, it's a little weird. So we're going to end with the other traditional way, which is to say Namaste, which means that which is divine in me honors and bows to that which is divine in you. So close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in, exhale the breath. One more inhale and exhale. Namaste. Thank you so much for taking the time to practice with me today. Here's what I want to say to you. If you are brand new to yoga and you've never practiced before and today was your first time ever playing yoga, I hope you liked it. I hope you had fun. I hope it wasn't hard or frustrating or anything like that for you. I hope it was enjoyable enough that it piqued your interest and maybe you'll come back for some more yoga. All of my classes right now, because they're virtual, have to be on the fairly basic side because I don't know who's practicing and I want everyone to feel like they're capable and included without anyone getting hurt. So if today's class worked for you and you felt good about it, then try some of the other ones or come back next week and we'll kind of pick up where we left off. But there's always modifications that I can offer. There's always things you can do to make something a little harder or more challenging. That's the beauty of yoga. It always will meet you wherever you are, and you can always make it work for you as long as you come and you try and you have a mat. I hope you had a good time. That was fun for me. So stay well, stay healthy. keep moving. And if I see you early in the morning walking or running, make sure you yell at me out your car window like some of you do every single day. And if I don't see you, then I'll see you online. Okay? Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye.